Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? This is, good. Okay, I was going to say thumbs up because presenting to an audience with headphones on is a brand new experience for me. So we'll keep with a thumbs up, thumbs down during the presentation.
Right.
So
Hi,
thank you very much.
Can you guys hear me? All right? Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much for coming to the session. Obviously, in terms of the overview we sent through, it's enough to entice everyone to be here. So what we wanted to do is spend some of your time here as part of the World Tour and talk to you a little bit about service design for Salesforce and what that means. So thumbs up, who's heard of service design? Good, that's
cool.
A good start. Who's used that as a practice as part of their Salesforce or any other technology implementation? Great. Few people that can probably co-present with us on stage as well. We wanted really to share some of this with you today because service design is part of the secret sauce as to really our implementation approach as a Salesforce partner as well. So without further ado, just in terms of introductions, my name is Claire Gillies. I'm a partner within our Deloitte Digital practice and joined here by a colleague. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Jean-Baptiste. So we start with a little magic trick here because obviously I don't exactly look like the guy you can see on the screen who is actually running a little bit late. So I'm definitely happy to be here with you guys and present. My name is Jean-Baptiste. I'm a director and one of the service lead here in our Sydney practice and working very much alongside Claire on those very exciting Salesforce projects.
And all credit to Jean-Baptiste as well, because he's responsible for the very creative slides behind us. And if you go to our booth today, you'll see that we're running some live art for business and really redesigning the future of customer experience and what that means from your perspective and putting that into a visual form as well. So thank you very much for your contribution. I will just mention before we start as well, you'll notice the T-shirts. It's not that we put everyone in Deloitte in a uniform, but we are the proud sponsors of the equality track of the World Tour here today, and also for the past 2 years have been the exclusive sponsor of the equality track at Dreamforce. So it's something that we're very passionate about, and also proud to say that a couple of weeks ago we won Workplace Gender Equality Award as well at Deloitte. So fantastic to share that with you as well. So as we start to talk about service design, really what I want to do in really leading into this in the first few slides is really just tell you a little bit of a story. And by telling you a bit of a story, introduce you to Deepti. And Deepti actually, in many respects, as I share her story, could be me, because there's lots of things in her life that resonate with my life. And hopefully for some of you as well, as we talk about Deepti, who she is, what's going on in her life, what some of her priorities are at work, what some of her challenges, again, that will resonate with some of you also. So first and foremost, Deepti's a mother. She's very busy. You can see she's balancing lots of things in life. She's a mum, she's a wife, she's also a career woman, she's got parents to take care of as well. So life is busy, pretty hectic, juggling lots of things. And actually tech is everywhere in her life. And without tech, she wouldn't really be able to work in the flexible way that she does. So she uses tech in many ways. In ways to be able to chat and connect with her friends in the same way we all do through social media, to be able to research, book holidays online, do her work from her mobile devices, etc. So really just emphasizing the fact that we live in a world where tech is everywhere. And in fact for Deepti, and this also is a real story based on not my personal experience, but friends of mine as well. So in fact, for Deepti, tech actually has an impact that matters in her life as well, and actually transcends across a number of industries. But Deepti has a son who has type 1 diabetes. Not sure if anyone here knows anyone with type 1 diabetes or has experienced that. I've seen a few kind of hands up in the air and what have you, but you'll realize that type 1 diabetes is really quite a severe form of diabetes, and it's critical to ensure that insulin levels are controlled and managed effectively. Deepti's son is 7. Up until the age of 6, Deepti and her husband would wake her son up at 3 a.m. in the morning. And again, if you know people that have diabetes, take a little pinprick of blood in the finger and double check insulin levels as well. Through technology, Deepti's son is able to wear a monitor that he holds close to his skin under his clothes, and also walks around with a mobile phone. So anyone, again, that has young children or if they're playing with friends, we might be a bit aghast of how come a 6-year-old suddenly has got their iPhone. But this has actually made a huge impact to Deepti's life and that of her sons as well, because now, through the technology, is able to control the insulin levels and drip feed and monitor that, so it can adjust the blood glucose levels as well automatically. And for the first time ever, Deepti's parents have been able to sleep through the night because they're seeing those insulin levels that flow through to an app on their phone, and there's an alarm that sounds if his insulin levels drop as well. So really, I wanted to share that story as an example of just demonstrating the impact that technology is having. And also, to an extent, if you put yourself in the shoes of the user, so in this case, Deepti, her partner, and her son, how really you can start to redesign things by thinking about what's the experience like for the user as well. So Deepti also works. I mentioned she's a busy mum. She's got a number of things in her diary as well. She's a successful head of marketing. Her team is working very hard, doing what they do best for their customers in terms of managing their existing customers. And also, as marketeers, it's all about growing your customer base and looking at opportunities to upsell as well. They have implemented Salesforce, so there'll be a number of you that are here today because you're existing customers of Salesforce, you're fans of Salesforce. There'll also perhaps be some of you here that are maybe thinking about buying Salesforce and implementing Salesforce as well. So we all know it's a leading CRM platform. It's very rich in functionality. She knows Salesforce could bring value to the organization, but it hasn't quite worked as expected. So does that sound familiar to anyone here where you've invested? You maybe haven't seen quite the impact you'd hoped for or what have you. Very, very often, it's not down to the technology. As I said, you've chosen a leading technology. It's fantastic. It's rich in functionality. You get 3 upgrades a year with additional functionality. The platform, as we've heard today from the keynote, is existing clients has gone from sales to service to marketing to commerce, now with the MuleSoft acquisition. So the breadth is significant. So as I say, kind of sounds familiar. So what happened? They had a good plan, they had the budget in place, they had the resources, they had clear governance. Sounds like a perfect project. They haven't forgotten about anything. But actually, yes, they have. They forgot the most important thing, and this is something that I hear from many customers, and I'm not just saying Salesforce customers, but other customers that have invested in other technology applications that have said, we've implemented, we've gone live with some new technology, we expected a bigger transformation, but we're struggling, we're not getting the data that we expected. My team aren't as engaged as I thought they would be. They've not adopted the technology. The customers haven't. As I mentioned, the customer base isn't increasing, so we're not seeing the data come through, etc. So leading on to, as I said, mentioned in terms of what the customers are looking at, and her team really wanting to stop and take some time out to understand what is it that we could do differently? What is it that we need to invest in next? What does our CRM strategy need to look like? What are the business outcomes we need to drive to demonstrate to the organization that we've met KPIs, that we're accelerating on those KPIs as well? Deepti herself needs to understand as a marketing manager what that return on investment has been. Has she really grown the customer base? Where's the data to support the uptake and the response from her team as well using those processes? How can she also demonstrate that there's a number of new customers that have come on board and they're starting to spend more, etc.? So all of this really paints a picture of a few things. One, we're living in a digital age where customer expectations are heightened. It's not industry specific, but we work in a day and age where I think fair to say, most people probably carry one of these around. Disappointing enough, but for some it's the first thing they look at in the morning as well, but that's the life we live in. Our expectations are really high around what we want from customer service, and we want to interact in a way that's easy, it's quick, it's intuitive. Hands up those of you that goes to perhaps maybe load a website and it's taken longer than 3-5 seconds and you ditch it and think, yeah, okay. We've got high expectations. If it's not loading in 3 seconds or it's not easy to navigate, we're out, we're off somewhere else as well. So that is exactly where service design comes in. And I'm very pleased that I'm here with Take Two Leon Doyle. So thank you. Leon is...
I actually bothered to show up.
Yes, I like it. Thank you. Wonderful colleague of mine working together in Deloitte Digital. And as I say, part of our secret sauce is really taking the experience we have in the Salesforce platform from a technology perspective, but working very closely with our colleagues from an experience and service design perspective. So thank you very much, Leon. I'll hand that over to
Claire,
you.
thank you. And I must apologize, everyone. I screwed up and went to the wrong building. So it was a mad dash across town to get here. Just so that I can quickly level check, and Claire, I'm not sure whether you did this at the start, but hands up everyone who feels they know what service design is. Okay, a smattering of you. Excellent, excellent. It means I'm preaching to a nice, fresh crowd here. And I'm going to just lay I'm going to be very transparent with you guys and lay a couple of things on the table. I am not a technologist, although I do love technology and it's part of my everyday. I'm not a technologist specialist, and I absolutely am not super familiar with the Salesforce platform. I leave that to my colleagues like Claire and our incredible team to be experts in platforms like Salesforce. And that's kind of intentional. It's actually really intentional because, and I lead experience design team in Deloitte Digital in Australia, while we don't profess deep technology knowledge, we get human beings. And that's at the core of service design. The human, and ultimately we believe that eventually everything we create and make needs to impact in a positive way the lives of a human being at some point. We really seek to understand the human being. And we use the terms art and science when we talk about humans. Because here's the thing about humans, and being one, I suspect you might know this, we might think we're logical. We might think that we think with clarity, right, using frameworks and logic. We don't. We're bags of meat, fluid, and emotion, ultimately. And really clever companies get that. And really clever companies, manipulate's probably the wrong word, but really clever companies seek to take advantage of that truth. For example, and again, because I know all of you like audience participation, hands up, how many times do you think the average adult in a Western social context lies a day? Show me some fingers. How many times do you think the average adult lies a day? I'm seeing 30, I'm seeing 5, twinkle 5. The average adult in a Judeo-Christian Western society lies between 5 and 8 times a day. They're mostly white lies. Yeah, I didn't like that movie. Oh yeah, I love that book. It's a great book. It's a great book. Yeah, I'm not hungry. I'm starving, right? They're mostly white lies, but the average human being lies on average that kind of period of day. That's interesting to us, right? Do we link a direct UI outcome to the fact that human beings play fast and loose with the truth? Not directly, but what we seek to understand is that as human beings, as these organisms, right, we seek to create the world around us that fits best within our mental image, our mental mindset. And one of the most incredible insights we've discovered, and it's not quite unique to us, because I think everyone knows this, is that over the last 10 years, people, right, have learned to yearn to work in the way they live. And we have wonderful companies like Apple to thank for that, right? They yearn to work in the way they live because for consumers, companies around the world have done so much incredible work to simplify, magnify, amplify the lived experience of their technologies, right? Whether it's shopping for travel, looking for accommodation, finding medical support, finding something to entertain me with, right? And I don't have to tell all of you, I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from. People's lived experiences have become phenomenal. It is a great time to be alive. I don't know about you guys. I'm loving living in this day and age. Here's the challenge. To do so in an enterprise context is far less simple. There are far more stakeholders, far more legacy platforms, far more legacy teams, right? All pushing and shoveling and wriggling in different directions. It is much more complex in a B2B environment, which is quite frankly where we typically find ourselves. Even though these incredible platforms that Salesforce, the incredible platform that Salesforce has created and its multitude of applications are in service of the end consumer, typically they are deployed right into a B2B context. And although these incredible apps and platforms are designed to really serve the end user, sometimes it is the interim user, right, the backstage user, and more on that term in a second, the poor person, quite frankly, perhaps in a call center or a back office, who has to contend with a slightly, how should I say this, slightly less smooth consumer-like experience. And you know, Claire's made the point beautifully earlier on. That's the whole intent of service design. Because in service design, we look to connect the experiences of consumers and employees who live and serve those consumers in an unbroken, beautiful chain to deliver that perfect experience. Because what our research tells us is you cannot deliver a wonderful end customer experience if you're not also looking after your people. I won't name names, but one of my clients a couple of years ago, we did a site visit to their level 2 desk. And the level 2 desk people were very polite, and they said, we have this great software tool. We're like, okay. They said it helps us connect the 14 different interfaces we need to service one call. And we call it swivelware. Because each of us has 2 computers, and we swivel between these computers to serve each call. Genius. Imagine how they felt. Imagine how productive they were. So back to service design. We, in addition to designing for the end customer, we seek to understand and design for a multitude of internal users and internal customers. The finance team, the ops team, the leadership teams who need to consume dashboards to understand how the business is going. IT, of course, is a critical stakeholder, as are the customer service folks. We speak to every single part of the business to understand how they might need the interfaces and the platforms to serve their needs. And we understand intrinsically that when we connect all of these experiences to delivering a great customer experience, at the end, magic happens, right? Now, I've made this point, but it's here because if you just take one thing away, it's this point here, right? And ask yourselves the question, right? When you are struggling with an application in your work environment. And by the way, what we often look for when we send our researchers out is Post-it notes. And apologies to anyone here from 3M. Post-it notes are a sign that something is awry in a system somewhere. If you don't believe, check it out, or look at your own desk. Post-it notes are a form of very short-term memory, typically. And if we see a workstation with lots of Post-it notes, right? It might be a design thinking workshop, in which case it's a different situation, but someone's workspace, right? If you see a bunch of Post-it notes, it typically tells us that something somewhere is not working, because that person has had to grab a piece of addressable short-term memory and write something down and stick it up in a vain hope that at the right time, it'll come back to them. Post-it notes are very interesting to us, right? People's lived experience at home drives the expectations of their work experience. It is an absolute truth. So, you're all curious, how do we do it? How do we do service design? Well, it would take far longer than we have to go into intricate detail, but I'm going to try to give you a 40,000 foot view of what service design looks like. And we flick back between a couple of models, which are these. And the model on your left is a fairly bog standard life cycle, right? SDLC, however you want to call it. And the bit in the middle is how we look at our Salesforce projects, right? Fairly straightforward, nothing surprising there. Everyone has a version of that, right? How we seek to uncover and discover the business challenges. We design what the solution looks like. We implement said solution. We operate the solution. And then we seek to enhance and improve and learn, most importantly, from what has been put into the marketplace, so that we can then go through multiple iterations of this and make each cycle better than the last one. On the outside is how we think about service design. Very similar. We seek to determine the business imperative. We seek to understand the user need. And when I say user here, let me be very clear. We mean the end customer and the internal users. We seek to understand their emotions, their expectations, their typical behaviors, where they get energy from, what saps their energy and makes them want to cry, go home and have a little cry in the shower. We need to understand both sides of the continuum. And we take that information and we start to populate the diagram you see on the right-hand side, which is, it looks like a journey map, and it kind of is. It kind of is a journey map, but it's an enriched journey map, because it absolutely captures the key constituents in the experience. It captures how they feel at any one time over a number of different usage episodes. And it seeks to capture their behaviors on two levels. You can see the top half is called on stage, and the bottom half is backstage or off stage, right? On stage is what the end customer sees, feels, touches, hears, experiences. And the backstage is what the internal employees see, touch, feel, listen, hear, smell, experience, plus also the processes and the platforms, right? And we use a staged metaphor because we think the stage is a wonderful way to understand this, because for those of you who have been to a stage production, a musical, or a play or an opera, what the audience sees on the stage is highly choreographed. It is rehearsed. It goes smoothly, except when the presenters don't arrive on time. There are people working in the back, pulling on ropes, changing scenes, moving shit around. There's an orchestra in the pit you can't see, but they've taken 28 years of training and practice to get to that point. An enormous amount of work goes into making the performance beautiful. Except when it's not. Except when you go to a ballet and the beautiful, graceful ballerina leaps into the air and the ballerino is poised to catch her and misses, and bam, she falls into the stage. It happens. And it's really evident to the audience when something wrong happens, right? It's really evident. So we use that metaphor to go, on stage has to be perfect, on stage has to be a ballet. But for each of those things to happen, for your customers to have a beautiful, perfect, seamless experience, a lot of shit gets done in the backstage. And we seek, again, and through service design, is to connect that with a golden thread to understand that if you want that end customer to have a wonderful experience when they click to chat and have a conversation, then for God's sake, you better have your processes in place, your training in place, your KPIs in place, your platforms in place, and understand all the things your people need to do to enable that great experience. And that's just one experiential point. So hopefully you can see, as we step through our process of delivering a Salesforce platform, we also inextricably link the human experience through service design and seek to understand and research the user need, seek to design an experience that then informs the platform design. We seek to engage and activate both internal customers and external customers through that experience. We have ongoing check-ins and measurement to understand where we've screwed up, quite frankly, and how we can improve that experience. And then in future iterations, we improve and improve and improve. All the while, the thing on the right-hand side follows us because they contain all of the insights and truths we stand on to inform the experience, the target experience that needs to happen. And notice I say target experience, not future state. Future states never happen. They're highfalutin, abstract terms oftentimes, right? That quite honestly, senior execs look at it and go, that's lovely, but seriously, we don't have the time or the money to get there. We talk about target state, much more practical, much more pragmatic. What is the target state we need to get to deliver that outcome for the business and our end customers, right? And through each of the episodes we work through, we map, as I said before, the emotional context. We seek to understand at every channel touch point, what is the experience we're delivering to the end customer? And again, in a backstage, what needs to be true to deliver that experience? And that, in a nutshell, is service design. It's actually fairly straightforward once you look at it, and quite intuitive. It's really worked well for us. We believe it's given our clients and their customers better outcomes at the end of the day than not. And it's something we stand by, and we've built into all of our projects. That's kind of it. We would love questions from you guys. These things are always best as a conversation. Feel free to provoke us, provoke Claire, perhaps not so much me, and disagree with us.
Hey, Leon, I've got a question to ask you, because this came up at the start. So there's some people in the audience, I said, who's heard of service design. There are a few hands up. Some people have service design practices in their organization.
Yep.
So can you maybe share a little bit in terms of how we've worked together with clients who have existing service design teams? You know, what have we bought? How have we helped to coexist and upskill their existing teams?
Yeah, absolutely. The word upskill is critical there. Not that we are the holders of truth, far be it, but we bring a lot of experience, and we bring a lot of experience from a number of different sectors. And I know some clients go, well, you know what, if it's not from my sector, I'm not interested. I beg to differ. I find that cross-sector learning and pollination is actually really helpful, really powerful. So what often we do is, and we love working with clients with service design teams, right? Because they already have a really good kind of base level of understanding of the organization and typically of the customer, of the end user. And as you would have hopefully picked up, we really rely on insights from the end customer to do any of our design work. So, you know, if any of your organizations have a service design team and you're looking to work with a vendor, hopefully us, who does this sort of work, you know, your service design team is an accelerator, right? But the value we then bring into our clients is we then, as I said before, bring insights into similar challenges from other sectors, and we just find that enriches our solutioning space and gets us to a quick win and an outcome much more quickly.
Thank you.
And philosophically as well, we as much as it might surprise you as a consultant to say this, we're not there to feather our nests and get fat and old by draining blood and revenue from our clients. We actually want to leave them in a better place. And we want to move on to another more interesting problem, which means teaching the people we work with, lifting the capability where appropriate. Philosophically, that's a big underpinning for us.
Thank you. So any questions from anyone in the audience? We have a question here, yeah. The microphone? Oh, here we go.
Hi. How do you balance between service design, optimal experiences, and out of the box on the other side, like Salesforce?
Yeah, good question. One, as I mentioned earlier, Salesforce capability is very rich. It's a leading CRM platform. You know, it may sound a bit of a sweeping statement, but there's not an awful lot it doesn't do, it can't do. Of course, with clients, we want to work in a way that you can take as much vanilla from the platform and you're not customizing, because if you start customizing too much, it becomes very expensive and timely to support that as well. So what we do with our clients is upfront, really set some very key design principles as we move into the phase of understanding scope. And we find that almost acts as our North Star. So when there are conversations, I'm sure you've been this, and you've got people in the room saying, oh, well, I want it to do this and that and what have you, we go back to the North Star and say, are we delivering what it needs to do for maybe this phase, the priority that we have, or even for the MVP phase as well. And that actually acts as a really good opportunity. And sometimes we will make trade-offs. So yes, we want to create an experience that's, you know, taken us right there, but we need to take some steps to get there as well. That experience of technology today that we live in hasn't occurred overnight. It's an evolution as well. So sometimes it's making some trade-offs.
And
Leon?
The word trade-off is really important. It's an intentional chosen trade-off. It's not a trade-off that just happens to happen. And that makes a world of difference.
Any other questions? If we don't have questions, Leon and I will be here. I think there's another few minutes left. If not, feel free to head to the Deloitte Digital booth. We'll be there. As I mentioned earlier, Jean-Baptiste will be there. We've got some live art running, so we're redesigning the future of customer experience with you. So thank you very much for coming to our session. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.